Alright, so this is the first side already installed. I wanted to test fit this and fitment and everything. That way the install video could be very seamless. This is held on real good. All bolts and nuts and lock washers. So this is how it looks on this side. Subtle. Not as aggressive as the CF500, but that's okay. It's definitely a different aesthetic and it works for the car. And then comparison, just gonna skip over to the other side. And we're back stock. Cute, but it's gonna get better. As I admire my freshly detailed car for the sake of this video, how do you remove this rocker panel here? Pretty simple, actually. Got a clip right here, 110 millimeter. Remember, everything that's not fundamentally based off of structure or a bolt based on structure, fundamental structure, y'all know what I'm trying to say. Remove that, get that in focus. There's another one right here. And one right up here, and this is actually what causes issues on lower vehicles. But we're gonna turn this, lock the wheel all the way to the left, give it some clearance. And then there's one bolt here, and there should be one bolt here, and this is just like for this splash guard right here that comes off. Real simple. Don't forget about these. Pop these out. They're just some Phillips, almost drywall screws. Pop that out and everything will come out. Just tug on it. And don't be afraid to, mess this up. It'll pop out. It's all held in by clips. Now there are a few of these underneath the rocker panel. They're just clips. Just pop them out with a flat head and it should pop right out to release the bottom. Depending on the technique that you use to install these, you will reuse these or you will not. And we'll get into that shortly. I'm not going to be reusing them, but you can use your own discretion to see how you want to proceed. All right, so I went ahead and got these professionally clear. They don't come clear from Japan. Double clear here. It is ceramic coated. Any defects you see is just dust. But this is the rocker panel completely off. And these are 1/4-inch drills here. So basically, I'm going to be able to retain the factory clips here. These are going to be the only clips that I use. For the rest of these 4 holes, I'm going to be using bolts and nuts with lock washers to secure it as much as possible. So you'll see these go directly into these already existing push clips, and they're very good hold. You can see this is the little splash guard that pops off with this, but I'll show you the technique once I get this off and then these back installed. So I had a little blocker here. I had to figure this out. So the right side had OEM clips that worked just fine. I had to go buy these at the dealership, but I'll leave the part numbers in the description, as well as you should be seeing that on the video right now. But you can use these OEM clips. They should be pre-existing there already if they hadn't fell out and you replaced them. Don't use universal. It may not fit specifically. So this piece is engineered by Lexon, again, tomato, to work with this car. So with the side molding or rocker panel, that's 1. The splitter here, that's 2. And then you got the rear splash guard right here, that's 3. You put that in, pop it in, you see how good of a fit that is. there's no movement. That was engineered to work specifically as it sees, as you see it. To the previous mention of this being engineered specifically for this car, these splitters are really designed to give a subtle look. You can pivot that as long as you got those bottom clips in. If you want it more aggressive, cool. If you want it less aggressive, you don't have to, but you can tell underneath it goes along with the body panel lines of the car. Now, hopping out of B-roll, you can tell this is how it's really supposed to be by design. So it kind of tapers to where the vent is toward the front of the wheel well and subtly comes out. That's how they wanted it. However, you still have the ability to, get creative as you want. So say if you want a little bit more aggressiveness to it, just pull that out a bit. That'll pop up a little bit and you'll still get those following the body lines. And this is how I'm going to go with it. That's how I have it on the other side, just so it's a less subtle look and a little bit more aggression. But in the same breath, it still follows the body lines just fine. Doesn't look bad. It's all up to you on preference, but just know, you have that flexibility on how you want to proceed ultimately based off of preference. The hardware that you're going to need for this technique, got lock washers, machine screws. Make sure they're stainless steel because they are going to be exposed to the elements. You don't want these rusted and being a headache. Washers and nuts. So got these at Lowe's again. Anything similar should work. And you shouldn't have a problem. Doesn't matter the brand for real. So once you have the two clips back there installed, and then you got this mount point here, and keep in mind, you want that spacing correct. This is in place right now. So basically what you do, you hold it up. Of course, you see I got carpets to protect the finish of the panel and the splitters. But you want to hold it up and pretty much just go down, drill in where all the pre-existing holes are into the actual body of the rocker panel or the side molding. And that's secured with these bolts. And it's going to be bolt, washer, bolt, washer, and then on the other side, washer, lock nut, and just thread in. So you got this screw right here. There should be 3 remaining, and we're going to bolt on it on both sides. So take the 1/4 inch drill bit, get square perpendicular with it so it goes in easy, and you just drill it, bore it out. And even though it's locked into place, make sure you're holding it. That way there's no flex in the frame or the splitter, and you just drill in. You can bore out a bit. You shouldn't need to, but that's what that looks like. Then you just put the assembly in. So method 2, you can go with tapping screws, but I'm going to choose not to. Just preference. I don't want these flying off per se, but you see the mount point that these splitters are created with is right behind this foam piece. Self-tapping screws may grab into that. Again, that's not how I'm gonna go. Keep in mind, if you use this technique that I'm using, it will bolt onto the molding, but these clips that are OEM are no longer gonna be used. Consulted with Barry about this, and he's taking it to track days and everything. He advised that the side pressure against it is gonna cause it not to fly off. So I don't expect having any issues. I trust his word, but this is another option if you want to go that way. You can use a double-sided tape with self-tapping screws if you choose, but that's going to be different than what this video presents. So we're going to get this screw in. I'll show you. This is going to be the bottom, right? So just lift this up, because I already drilled it out. Goes right through. All right, so then you want to proceed with this washer. Drop that on. Make sure to watch out for the foam, because it's going to get in the way a bit. Locking washer, that's going to create pressure, a negative pressure, so that stays tight. It's not going to rattle around with vibrations, etc. And then finally you got your nut. And just torque those down as you deem fit. I mean, don't over tighten them. It is polyurethane, it is carbon fiber. You don't want to crack either one. And basically with this foam, you can cut out a void here if you want to keep it there, or you can just kind of like wrap it around there. It's still going to be functional. Don't even worry about it. But again, this is a guide. Do what you want to do to make yourself feel comfortable. This is what I'm going to do. All right, so this is the final configuration for attachments. You got the two OEM clips back here. You start there first. Then you move down here, go to the top to secure, remove the pivot, make it fixed, right? Then you proceed with these middle ones. Got that right there, that right there. Again, those holes on the splitter are pre-existing to work specifically with this car. And I'm gonna jack this up just to show you how it pivots away from this point right here. So as you can see, it does taper for preference, for preference. And again, what that's gonna do is give you the end result of this, a little bit more aggressive. All the way to the back. The only thing left to do now is put it back on. Of course, this is gonna be easier with another person, but I do everything solo. This is on a tripod. Impressive, right? Thank you. So have something to prop it up on the side that you're not securing. We're gonna go and hike the speed real quick. You just see how it's done. Just do the reverse of how it's done. Originally to take it off, so. One thing that may or may not be a deterrent to you is you do have to cut this liner. And again, this is the way I'm doing it. If you don't like it, you know, you can always find an alternative. Maybe this method with bolts is not for you. You can go with plan B of actually using self-tapping screws. But it's a trade-off, right? So you see here, this has to go around here, and ideally you want it under there, but due to my installation technique of having the alignment and everything, and it having to be off the car and having to use the bolts, kind of indicative you don't need to use the bolts, but it's all preference. You got to cut this because there's a tab about, where's it at? It's a push tab somewhere under here, about right here, that this needs to wrap around and snap into to secure the liner. So basically what I'm gonna do is just cut it like right here. So you can see I slid it right here, maybe a little bit too much than what I really needed, but with that being said, use this somewhat error as a lesson just to kind of start at a centimeter at a time and then trim accordingly. So what you do, once you get that trimmed out or cut out, because this lip right here is a pinch, and you just want to create like a void there so it can wrap around. You take the flap and stick it, wedge it between the splitter and the rocker panel, and then you can see underneath here, get a good angle. But this is the trim that is wedged in. Wrap that under and move back, and that's that push tab. is secure. So we're just gonna finish this up. Got these 2 bolts in, that's not a problem. And put in shameless plug, carbon fiber mud guard, still holding strong. Link to their description below. Still highly recommend it because they work 100%. So get this back on.